Okay, from Paul. When we talk about the day of judgment being an extended period of time, is it possible that when God said, in the day you eat thereof, you shall surely die, that this is also an extended period of time?
Are you referring to the idea that Adam ate, but he didn't die until he was 930? That physically he did not fall down dead that moment, but we know the Bible tells us he died at the age of 930. I don't think so. His physical death was a result, it was a consequence of the fall into sin, but that very day he died in his soul, and that's the death that God was talking about, because the reference to that very day it indicated that it would be immediate, and he did die immediately in his soul existence, and it was necessary for man not to die in their body for some time later, because God had to work out the history of the world. And how are you going to have time unfold over thousands of years if you strike everyone dead right at the point of sin in both body and soul? So God's solution was to just kill the soul and leave the physical body. And then man would continue to live on the earth in his physical body, going through the various times and seasons until we get to the end. And at the end, the Lord will destroy the body and everything that identifies with mankind eternally. But it was necessary to do it this way. And it's also necessary for God to save the soul first and not the body. And, that's also obvious. Where God gives a new, born-again, resurrected soul, well, he also forgave all the sins of our body, but why didn't he give us a new resurrected spiritual body at the same time? Just look at Jesus and Moses and Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration, where they're shining brilliantly with the glory of the sun. That's a new resurrected body. And there's no way that the people of God could go out and be messengers after receiving salvation if all of a sudden they have new resurrected spiritual bodies that are shining with a brilliance. You can't walk the streets. You can't carry the gospel to your family or friends. They're going to be very much afraid of you, just like the Israelites were afraid of Moses just because his face shone a little bit. And so God wisely came up with a gospel that has everything to do with the soul or the spirit of man, whether it's dead and when it's alive, and it's invisible, and that's why it's so dependent on faith, on that which gives spiritual sight. Faith is, how's that go? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And so that's how God determined to work through the Bible throughout time, through the spiritual realm. And it fits in with the whole idea. The Bible's a spiritual book. The law is spiritual. God is spirit. Man's main problem is his soul, which is spiritual, invisible. And it all is dependent on faith, which is something nobody can see. And when those who are saved possess it, then they're able to see or perceive. Really, when the Bible speaks of seeing, it means understanding. They're able to understand the truths of God and have strong faith and confidence in them and believe them and know that these things are true and faithful. And that's how God has worked out his salvation program and judgment program, because now here we are in the day of judgment, and doors are shut in the church and in the world. And again, that's a spiritual thing, and people just don't believe. When spiritual occurrences happen, they can't see it with their physical eyes. Yeah, I think we have time for another.